There is something deeply wrong with the vegetables on your plate, right now, in your refrigerator, sitting in that produce drawer you bought from last week. Something has been taken from them, something invisible, something vital, and nobody told you. The carrot you ate today contains less than half the nutrients it would have contained if you had eaten it in 1950. The tomato tastes like water. The lettuce wilts in 2 days. The bell pepper has no flavor. You bite into what should be nature's pharmacy, and you taste nothing. This is not an accident. Let me show you something that will change how you see food forever. Ancient civilizations, the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, the Chinese dynasties, they were physically stronger than us. Their bones were denser. Their teeth were harder. They lived without the chronic diseases that plague every modern society. No diabetes epidemic, no autoimmune disorders sweeping through populations, no obesity crisis. And they ate vegetables, but not your vegetables. They ate something else entirely, something we have almost completely lost, something that was bred out, engineered away, abandoned in the name of profit and convenience and cosmetic perfection. They ate heirloom vegetables, wild varieties, ancient cultivars that had been shaped by 10,000 years of careful selection for one thing and one thing only: nourishment. Not size, not shelf life, not the ability to survive a 2,000-mile journey in a refrigerated truck. The vegetables your great-great-grandparents ate were unrecognizable compared to what you buy today. They were smaller, uglier, stranger looking. They had deep, almost violent colors. They smelled like the earth itself. They tasted so intense that children had to learn to eat them. And they were loaded, absolutely packed with minerals, vitamins, antioxidants, and compounds that we are only now beginning to understand. Modern vegetables? They're shadows, hollow imitations. We are eating the botanical equivalent of empty calories wrapped in green packaging. Here's the question I want you to answer in the comments right now. When was the last time you ate a vegetable that actually tasted like something, that had a smell, that made you feel satisfied? Because if you can't remember, you need to keep watching. Let's go back, way back to the carrot. Yes, the carrot, that boring orange stick you throw into stir fries and ignore on your plate. But the carrot you know is a lie, a modern fabrication. The original carrot, the real carrot that sustained empires, was not orange. It was purple, deep, dark purple, almost black in some varieties. Others were yellow, white, red. They were thin, twisted, gnarled roots that looked more like wild parsnips than the perfect cone-shaped specimens in your grocery store. And they were medicine. The ancient Afghans and Persians cultivated these purple carrots over 2,000 years ago. They didn't eat them because they were sweet. They weren't. They ate them because they were powerful. These carrots contained anthocyanins, the same compounds that make blueberries blue and red wine red. Anthocyanins that protect your cells from oxidative stress, that reduce inflammation, that shield your DNA from damage. The purple carrot was a survival food. It could be stored through winter. It could be dried and ground into flour. It grew in poor soil. It resisted pests naturally because its own chemistry was so intense that insects avoided it. When Alexander the Great's armies marched across Persia, they carried these carrots. When caravans traveled the Silk Road, they packed them. These vegetables weren't just food. They were currency. They were life insurance. Now look at the data. A 1950 carrot, 13.6 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams. A modern carrot, 6 milligrams. Calcium, down by 50%. Iron, down by 70%. And the anthocyanins, those cell-protecting, disease-fighting compounds from the ancient purple varieties, almost completely absent from the orange carrot you buy today. The orange carrot didn't even exist until Dutch growers created it in the 17th century as a tribute to William the Orange. They bred the purple out. They bred the medicine out. They created something sweeter, prettier, more uniform. They destroyed the carrot. And this is just one vegetable. Every single one in your kitchen has the same story. The tomato, the lettuce, the cucumber, the pepper. Each one was transformed, diminished, gutted of its power. The ancient people knew something we forgot. Real vegetables are supposed to challenge you. They're supposed to have flavor so strong it borders on bitter. They're supposed to smell like the soil they came from. They're supposed to be alive. What you're eating now, it's barely alive at all. So what happened? How do we go from those dense, nutrient-rich ancient varieties to the tasteless, weak imposters we eat today? The answer is industrial agriculture, and it's worse than you think. In the early 1900s, farming changed forever. What had been a 10,000-year conversation between humans and plants, a slow, careful process of selection and adaptation, became a business, a rush, a race to the bottom. Companies began hybridizing vegetables for one reason: money. They needed vegetables that could grow to enormous sizes to maximize yield per acre, ripen at exactly the same time for mechanical harvesting, survive being picked unripe and gassed with ethylene to ripen in trucks, last weeks on a shelf without rotting, look absolutely perfect. Uniform color, no blemishes, no irregularities. Notice what's missing from that list? Nutrition, flavor, life. Nobody bred vegetables to make you healthier. They bred them to make logistics easier. The modern tomato is designed to be hard. So hard you can drop it from 5 feet and it won't bruise. So hard it can tumble through sorting machines and packing facilities and refrigerated shipping containers and grocery store displays and still look flawless. But that hardness, it comes from reducing the gel inside. The very gel that contains the lycopene, the vitamins, the minerals. The tomato became a shell, a red ball of cellulose and water with a faint memory of what it used to be. And then there's the soil. Modern industrial farming treats soil like dirt, like an inert medium to hold plants upright while you pump them full of synthetic fertilizer, NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, the absolute bare minimum to make a plant grow. But vegetables don't just need 3 nutrients. They need dozens: zinc, selenium, magnesium, manganese, boron, copper. Trace minerals that exist in healthy soil that's been enriched by compost, by decomposing matter, by living ecosystems of fungi and bacteria. Industrial soil has none of that. It's dead, depleted, used up. So the vegetables grow fast and big and empty, like inflating a balloon. Lots of size, no substance. And then we spray them. Pesticides to kill bugs, herbicides to kill weeds, fungicides to kill mold. A chemical bath from seed to harvest. These chemicals don't just wash off. They bind to the plant tissues. They're absorbed into the cellular structure. And when you eat that vegetable, you eat them too. Some of these chemicals mimic hormones in your body. Others damage the lining of your gut. Others accumulate in your tissues over decades, until one day, your immune system doesn't recognize your own cells anymore. The modern vegetable isn't just nutritionally empty, it's actively harmful. Let me break this down in a way that will make you angry. In 2004, a researcher named Donald Davis at the University of Texas published a study that should have made headlines everywhere. He analyzed USDA nutritional data for 43 common vegetables and fruits, comparing their nutrient content in 1950 to their content in 1999. The results were catastrophic. Protein down 6%, calcium down 16%, iron down 15%, vitamin C down 20%, riboflavin down 38%. And this is the average. Some vegetables lost even more. The modern broccoli has less than 1/3 the calcium it had in 1950. The modern spinach has lost 60% of its iron. But it gets worse, because it's not just about the nutrients you can measure, it's about the nutrients you can't. Phytonutrients. These are the compounds that give vegetables their color, their smell, their flavor. The bitter edge of kale, the sharp bite of radish, the deep purple of cabbage. These aren't accidents, they're defense mechanisms. Plants can't run away from predators, so they evolved chemistry, compounds that repel insects, that resist disease, that protect the plant from environmental stress. And when you eat those compounds, they protect you too. But modern vegetables don't need to defend themselves. We spray pesticides, we control the environment, we breed plants that are easier to grow, plants that don't produce those bitter, intense chemicals. So the phytonutrient content plummets. And what replaces it? Sugar. Modern carrots are sweeter than carrots from a century ago. Modern corn is twice as sweet. Modern apples taste like candy. We've bred vegetables and fruits to appeal to the modern palate, the palate that's been hijacked by processed food that craves sweetness, that rejects bitterness. So we've turned vegetables into sugar delivery systems. You bite into a modern carrot, and it tastes like water with a hint of sweetness, no complexity, no depth, no information for your body. Because flavor is information. When something tastes bitter, your body knows there are tannins here, polyphenols, compounds that will challenge your digestion, that will make your liver work, that will wake up your metabolic pathways. When something tastes like nothing, your body knows there's nothing here worth processing. This is why you can eat an entire salad and still feel hungry, because on a cellular level, your body is starving. It's receiving bulk, receiving fiber, receiving water, but not nourishment. Not the mineral-dense, phytonutrient-rich, chemically complex food that your DNA expects. Your genes were shaped by 10,000 generations of humans eating wild food.
Intensely flavored, bitter, tough, nutrient-dense food. And now we're feeding those same genes water vegetables. It's no wonder everything is breaking, but here's what they don't tell you. The real vegetables, the ancient ones, the wild ones, the powerful ones, they still exist. Right now, there are farmers growing heirloom tomatoes that taste like no tomato you've ever experienced. Deep, complex, acidic, sweet, alive, tomatoes that smell so strong you can smell them from across the room. There are gardeners cultivating purple carrots that taste earthy and mineral-rich, white carrots that have a spicy, almost radish-like bite, yellow carrots that are creamy and smooth. There are seed banks preserving varieties of lettuce, cucumber, squash, peppers that haven't been sold in grocery stores for 70 years. And when you grow these vegetables, when you taste them, you realize this is what food is supposed to be. Let me give you an example. The Cherokee Purple tomato, an heirloom variety that originated with the Cherokee people in Tennessee over a century ago. This tomato is ugly by modern standards. It's lumpy, irregularly shaped, with greenish shoulders and a dusky purple-brown color. But bite into it, and your entire understanding of what a tomato is changes. It's sweet and tart at the same time. It has a smokiness and earthiness. The flesh is dense, almost meaty. The flavor lingers in your mouth for minutes. And when researchers analyze it, they find that it contains 3 times the lycopene of a standard supermarket tomato, 3 times the vitamin C, higher levels of beta-carotene, of flavonoids, of minerals. Why? Because it was never bred for shelf life, it was bred for flavor. And flavor is the signature of nutrients. Or look at wild arugula, the kind that grows on its own in Mediterranean hillsides. Compared to the domesticated arugula you buy in plastic clamshells, wild arugula is aggressive, it's peppery, almost painfully bitter with a mustard-like heat, and studies show it contains up to 10 times the antioxidants of cultivated arugula. Why? Because wild plants are under constant stress. They're fighting for survival. They're exposed to temperature swings, to pests, to poor soil, and to survive, they produce higher levels of protective compounds. When you eat those compounds, you inherit that resilience. This is the secret that indigenous cultures understood instinctively. The strongest plants make you stronger. Not the prettiest ones, not the biggest ones, not the ones that ship well or store long. The ones that fight. But we chose extinction instead. In the last 100 years, we have lost between 85 and 95% of all vegetable varieties that once existed. Think about that number. 95%. Thousands of varieties of tomatoes, peppers, beans, squash, lettuce, cabbage, each one adapted to a specific climate, a specific soil type, a specific cultural cuisine, gone. Not because they didn't work, but because they didn't fit the system. They didn't grow uniformly, they didn't ship well, they didn't look perfect, they ripened at different times, they required human attention, careful harvesting, immediate use. So the seed companies dropped them, the grocery stores refused to stock them, the farmers stopped planting them, and within 2 generations, they vanished. This is one of the greatest tragedies in human history, and almost nobody talks about it. We talk about endangered species, tigers, elephants, rhinos, but we don't talk about the mortgage lifter tomato or the moon and stars watermelon or the scarlet runner bean. These weren't just plants, they were libraries. Each variety contained genetic information refined over centuries, resistance to specific diseases, tolerance for specific climates, nutritional profiles optimized for human health, and we threw them away. We replaced them with 12 varieties of everything. 12 types of tomatoes approved by supermarket chains, 12 types of lettuce, 12 types of peppers, all of them bred for the same qualities: size, uniformity, durability, appearance. This is what the food industry calls efficiency. It's what ecologists call genetic bottleneck. It's what historians will call mass extinction. Because here's the terrifying part. Those lost varieties can never be recreated. You can't just breed them back. Each one represented hundreds of years of selection, of adaptation, of evolution. Once they're gone forever. And with them goes resilience, diversity, the ability of our food system to adapt to climate change, to new diseases, to new pests. We have locked ourselves into a food system that depends on uniformity. The same 12 varieties planted in the same depleted soil, sprayed with the same chemicals, shipped along the same routes. And when something breaks, when a disease appears, when climate shifts, when supply chains collapse, we have no backup plan. The heirloom varieties were the backup plan. And we deleted them.
But you can bring them back right now, today, in your backyard, on your balcony, in a single pot on your windowsill. You can grow vegetables that are healthier, more nutritious, more real than anything you can buy in any store on earth. Here's how. Step 1, get heirloom seeds. Not hybrid seeds, not GMO seeds, heirloom seeds. Open-pollinated varieties that have been passed down for generations. You can find them from seed companies like Baker Creek, Seed Savers Exchange, and dozens of small, independent growers. Look for names that sound strange. Brandywine, Black Crim, Dragon's Tongue, Cosmic Purple. These aren't marketing names, they're history. Each one tells a story of the people who grew it, the places it came from. Step 2, build real soil. Not potting mix, not fertilizer, soil. Start composting. Every vegetable scrap, every coffee ground, every fallen leaf. Let it break down. Let it rot. Let the bacteria and fungi colonize it. This is how you create humus, the dark, rich, living substance that feeds plants.
Add it to your garden, mix it with existing soil. Over time, you'll rebuild what industrial farming destroyed, a living ecosystem underground. Step 3, forget pest control. Stop spraying, stop worrying. Yes, some pests will come, but if your soil is healthy, your plants will be healthy. They'll produce their own defenses. They'll survive. And the pests, they'll attract predators. Birds, ladybugs, spiders, wasps. An ecosystem will form. You don't need to control it, you need to allow it. Step 4, harvest at the right time. Not when it's convenient, when it's ready. A tomato is ready when it falls off the vine into your hand. A carrot is ready when the shoulders push up through the soil. A pepper is ready when it's so heavy the branch bends. This is when the nutrients peak. This is when the sugars concentrate. This is when the plant has fulfilled its purpose. Step 5, preserve the harvest. Ferment your vegetables. Pickle them, dry them, freeze them, can them. Our ancestors didn't have grocery stores. They had root cellars and fermentation crocks and drying racks, and they ate nutrient-dense food all year long. Fermentation especially is transformative. It pre-digests the vegetables, making nutrients more bioavailable. It creates probiotics. It intensifies flavor. A fermented heirloom cabbage, real sauerkraut, contains more vitamin C after fermentation than before. It contains billions of beneficial bacteria. It can last for years. This is food as medicine. This is food as it was meant to be. Your backyard can grow vegetables healthier than anything in the supermarket. That's not an exaggeration. That's not romantic idealism. That's biochemical fact. A single heirloom tomato plant grown in composted soil, watered by hand, harvested at peak ripeness, will produce fruit with 2 to 5 times the nutrient density of anything you can buy. And it will cost you almost nothing. The seeds cost $2, the compost is free, the water is rain, the labor is meditative. And in return, you get sovereignty. You get independence from a food system that has betrayed you. You get connection to the 10,000 generations of humans who fed themselves from the earth. You get medicine that actually works. You get real vegetables. So, here's what I want you to understand. Real vegetables still exist. The secret was never lost, only forgotten. Somewhere in a seed bank in Norway, there are seeds for vegetables you've never heard of. Varieties that fed ancient Rome, varieties that sustained Chinese dynasties, varieties that crossed the Atlantic with immigrants who refused to leave their food behind. Somewhere in a backyard in Iowa, an old woman is saving seeds from her grandmother's tomatoes, the ones her family brought from Sicily in 1904, the ones that taste like summer and smell like memory. Somewhere in a community garden in Detroit, young people are planting heirloom collards and okra, reclaiming the foods that sustain their ancestors, that carry culture in their DNA. The vegetables are waiting. They've been waiting for you to remember. Every seed you plant is an act of rebellion against the food industry that lied to you, against the agricultural system that depleted your soil, against the grocery stores that convinced you that food should be uniform, sterile, and tasteless. Every bite of a purple carrot is a connection to 2,000 years of human wisdom. Every meal from your garden is a vote for a different future. Because the truth is, we don't need the industrial food system to survive. We never did. They need us. They need us to keep buying, keep forgetting, keep accepting less. But once you taste a real vegetable, once you bite into an heirloom tomato still warm from the sun, once you pull a purple carrot from your own soil, once you eat food that actually tastes alive, you can never go back. You'll look at the grocery store and see it for what it is, a warehouse of shadows. You'll look at your garden and see it for what it is, a pharmacy. The choice has always been yours. The seeds are still here. The knowledge is still here. The only question is, what will you plant? If this changed how you see food, like this video and subscribe, because there are a dozen more stories like this. Foods that were corrupted, traditions that were erased, secrets that were buried, and we're digging them all up, one veggie at a time.